I'd saved my ass and got 100 against Queensland in the second innings, and then got the nod from George. And Pat just said, just do you, just play. And I think that just opened it all up.
So what were you doing if you weren't going to play cricket?
I did a week of plumbing, and I did a half a TAFE course of baller making. So I, funnily enough, rang my dad when Tim Nielsen called me and said, catch up a coffee. And I laughed and jokingly said, like, I'm either getting the sack or getting captaincy. I'm not sure which one it is. The first day on the job as captain, I rocked up late, parked it on the start line, jumped out and went, all right, boys, let's do it. And it was like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? I had a huge fear of missing out, had massive anxiety around what people thought of me and wanted to be liked and everything. And in that job, you can't be liked by everyone. Yeah, that night was a kickstart of it all, and I never knew what was going to come from it.
An important moment in this ultimate test.
I've just been on a 6-week honeymoon.
Yes.
So I was rough as guts with the bat. I was packing it.
When you busted your hand, did you think that's my World Cup?
I thought I was stuffed at the time. He's like, no, we're going to keep you in. We're going to win a World Cup because of the way we're going to stack up.
Got the heart of a hero, spirit of a champion.
You've been dropped 4 times. Like, what's been your toughest period in the game or away from the game?
Everything stems back to that one test in Brisbane.
Well, this man, he's an entertainer. He's a World Cup winner. He's a World Test Championship winner. He's a proud moustache wearer. He's a father of 2. And on top of that, he is a KO ambassador. Trav Head joins the Howie Games. You've got a bit on your plate, Trav, to be fair.
Yeah, it's busy at the minute. That's why the moustache is turning all beard at the moment. So I've got a few days to sort myself out before the test. So, but no, thanks for having me.
Mate, so much I want to talk to you about. Well, you mentioned the test straight away. So we're recording this on Monday. It will come out Thursday. The test starts Friday. Did you used to go to the Adelaide Test as a young fella?
I did. Some very fond memories. Probably the one that sticks out is the amazing Adelaide Test that gets so talked about so much, and I was there for the first 2 days to watch England bat, and that was it. So missed all the good stuff at the end. But no, I do remember going and sitting out in the chapel stand, which is out on the eastern side of the ground and underneath or out in the sun pretty much. And lucky enough, out the back, I won tickets for the next day. So me and Mum rolled back around and watched them again. So yeah, fond memories. And then you watch that test and then you end up watching it at home and everything. But being a Northern Suburbs boy, got in for a couple of days. Not all the time, but yeah, always good to go watch.
And did you pop along to the one days? Traditionally, they had that one day on Australia Day, massive crowds at Adelaide Oval. Were you a one-day man as well?
I got to a few of them. Nothing that I can really stand out. I do remember sitting behind the sight screen. And then old school, the sight screen would move and the 50 people would sit in the spot where it was going to be, have to get up and move and that. So I do remember that. But like I said, yeah, I got to a few. Didn't get to heaps with being a bit far away. But no, it was always good when the boys come in town. And definitely when I got a little bit older, more keen on it and seeing it a bit more was cool.
So what is it like to walk out and bat in your home test, which you'll be doing at some stage in the next week? Is it something extra special, or is it another ground and another game of cricket where you're just doing your best, mate?
Well, hopefully, because I didn't get to walk out against in a few test matches ago against Pakistan when Davey got 300. I think I didn't get a bowl or a bat in my home test.
He hogged it. He hogged it.
So yeah, so I do hope so. Yeah, it's very special. I'm expecting a pretty big crowd come Friday. And yeah, they show a bit of love when I come out at bat, which is always nice. So it is a cool week. It's a busy week, but I don't mind that. And I've come to I guess get excited about that and the build up. And I said that last week going to Perth, the build up of a first test, but now build up of a home test match. So there's a lot of people looking for tickets and a lot of anticipation about it. But I am looking forward to training. Adelaide Oval is it's a great venue. So I feel like it's one of the best in the world. It's definitely my favourite, but the whole training part out in the cage, out the back, people can come in and watch, and there is a good vibe about it. So it's exciting next few days before the test, and then, yeah, morning of is always nice. And I do get to stay at home, so added bonus.
You mentioned the ticket requests. For an Adelaide Test, how many messages do you reckon get from old mate that you haven't heard from? And then how many test tickets do you generally try and supply? So what's the demand and what's the supply, Trav? It's
got less and less over the years on who messages us. I get some close mates that do, but asking for someone else. So I maybe that's their way of going into it now. But I've come up with a plan of Jess looks after the families, and we get looked after with obviously a box and whatnot with the family members, and you'll see that I guess people will see that on the broadcast with all the families and partners and whatnot sitting up there. So that's for everyone, and I'll try and get my family in there at some point, and Jess will look after that part, and my dad looks after the rest. So I'm not sure on tickets at the minute. I'm hopeful for a few. And then Dad will take control of that, and then he'll just sort of divvy between family members and mates and whatnot. So anyone that comes to me, sort of, I say go to Dad and chat to him, and I sort of leave it to those two people and concentrate on playing. But that's been a good method over the years. So Dad takes control of the week, which is good.
This is not a discussion about the Test series because the conversation becomes quickly outdated. But with the amount of cricket you play, Trav, open, honest question, what is a losing Test match like? Is it half an hour of disappointment? Is it an hour? Is it 3 days? Because you play so much cricket, and we'll get to white ball cricket, and then playing for Sunrisers and losing a cricket match there. You've won so many cricket matches, but to you, what is losing a Test match?
I think it depends on how you lose. And different people take it different ways and process it different ways. And like for me, I probably processed it pretty early in the Test match that we were stuffed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm someone that likes to get up for the contest, and I hold pride in what I do, and I want to win games of cricket. But if that sight of that gets, we needed 550. If you're realistic, you're not winning that game last week. What can you get out of that game is pride and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, okay, well, for me, I was like, I want to go out and play well. I don't think I can impact the game. I'm not going to save the game. Like, do you know what I mean? Those things are unrealistic.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd love to. Some people are driven by, like, I'm going to show them today. And I'm like, well, okay, yes, the other day I could achieve something. And I was probably more like, okay, there's not many positives that can come out today. There's more negatives, if that makes sense. Like, I can go out and get 100. I was bloody close. But that's probably going to go on the back burner a little bit because the second innings, the game's sort of done. We're just going to go through the motions in terms of the general thing, not for me. But what's the worst case? It's like, oh, I don't get it. I get out for none, and the pressure builds. So I went there thinking there's not much to gain here. Go out and be relaxed. Go out and play how you want to play the series, more so than worrying about what the game was. So I've probably processed losing that Test earlier in that night or the day before when we're like, okay, we're 550 behind. So, so that probably made the next few days easier, if that makes sense. When you look back at some of the close games, you look back at Leeds when we had the Ashes on the toast, and Stokesy does what he does. That took a few days. So different losses, different emotions throughout the week, different personal emotions, all those sort of things add up to, I think, how you process things.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because the team has been so successful. And when you win, it's like, oh, the Aussies were great. And working on the cricket, I get a general feel there's interest in the cricket. But after a loss, passion comes out and you realise, strangely, Trav, after a loss, what Test cricket means to this country.
Yeah, it's been full on. But I wouldn't say it's been, again, I'm realistic, and I think we're honest in what we're doing. Like, there was probably a couple of blimps last year in the summer. Like, we got over the line, we were able to, and that's what great teams do. Yes. Don't get me wrong, we were able to take sort of that 5 for 20 in Sydney, or like we took a heap of wickets in Sydney out of nowhere, and yeah, we got lucky in Melbourne, a couple of drop catches, and we made the most of them. And Pakistan put us under pressure, and then we did lose a Test to the West Indies. So there was probably some things forming, I guess, for the public, if you look at it from another lens, that, yeah, they probably sensed that we were, we got through with individual performances and not a sort of team collective. So, and then when you come up against someone like India, and you play like you do in the first Test, people go straight back to what happened last summer, and I think that's built the more the pressure around it, and then that's what's burst the bubble a little bit. And it's like we look at it as one bad performance, and we got an opportunity now to rectify that this week, and that's what the attitude was after the Test as well. We've done a really, really good job over the last 3 or 4 years. This team's been together 3 or 4 years. We've dealt with some adversity. We understand how to process, the problem solve and whatnot. So it was a pretty relaxed dressing room, and we sort of know what we need to do. Doing it is a different story. So we got 4 or 5 days to prepare and play well, but no doubt I feel like it just wasn't one bad performance that the media have then crashed on us, and the public has sort of showing some emotion. I feel like there was some emotion there last year, and we played really well in big moments to win games of cricket. We quite easily could have lost a couple of more tests last year, probably.
Yeah, I think it's a really considered and appropriate answer. We'll get to your journey. We did the player profile a couple of days ago, and there was a young one crying in the background. So obviously, and you have got Miller, and congratulations on the birth of Harrison. One of the great names to mine, Harrison Head. I think it's an absolutely magnificent name. Fatherhood, Trav, the cliched question, but I ask it anyway. Has it changed you, and if so, how?
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt it would. It's probably changed a little bit. There's a bit more added responsibility. It's probably changed myself a little bit around. It's made me a little bit better morning person. Definitely number two. Definitely Harrison's helped me like deal with no sleep. I'm not a morning person, and probably Jessica isn't either. So that's tough in a relationship when both people don't enjoy an early morning, which you get a couple of them. We get a lot of them with now two. So it's probably made me deal with that sort of stuff, like away from the game and day-to-day life. A bit more routine, a lot more routine actually, a lot more consistency. Probably looking after myself a little bit more as well, which is good. And then, and just obviously seeing them grow. Miller's getting big quick. She's becoming extremely bossy, but also understanding, how I'm as a father and how I deal with tantrums and different things that will come along now. And no doubt over the next few years, there'll be, fingers crossed, touch wood, there'll be broken bones, no doubt, but hopefully not too bad. But you got to deal with those sort of things and emotionally and things that they'll go through, and then teenage years, which is I might throw to mum, but I'm looking for like those will develop, and I think you do that as you get older, and then you do that as parenthood, and I think I've learned a fair bit about myself, and I would say that it has probably helped my cricket a lot more. The stats would probably suggest that I've had my better years once they come along. So not sure why though.
Yeah, do you have any indication why? Like, has it straightened you? I found, Trav, when I had young kids, when I'd go away with work, personally, I was like, okay, I'm away from my wife. She's got two young ones to look after, so she's doing an amazing job. I'm missing her. I'm missing my kids. If I'm away, I might as well give absolutely everything I have to my job. Otherwise, I'm wasting my time and their time. That's sort of how it impacted me. But I don't get measured statistically like you do.
I probably forgot. The statistic stuff. I'm playing the game now. I think it's changed the way. You asked me 3 or 4 years ago what my career might look like. Now this is before I obviously experienced the shorter form of the game in the last sort of 18 months, where that world is different level, and I've been able to put, I guess, some performances together where I might be able to, I guess, get more of an opportunity in that space. But I would have said I would have played shield cricket, and I would have grinded, and I'm happy to play county cricket every year and go and travel and play every single day of the year. And I think once children come along, and that was more for personal achievements, like what I wanted to get out of my career. And I think it's changed now, and obviously we're very fortunate in what we do, and we got very well looked after, and I get an opportunity now to support my family. So I think the decisions that I'll make will be based around that, and that's why I play the game. I don't care about. I joked with the boys about my 50th test, and I said I won't double it. Like, I'm not in it for playing 100 tests. I'm not in it for getting a certain average or a certain amount of hundreds or whatnot. So like, I'm not kicking myself about the other day about not getting 100. Like that will take care of itself. I want to play games to win games of cricket, and I want to play the game to enjoy it with my mates, who I've got some really close mates in this team, and I bloody enjoy playing with them. But then the big overriding thing of all this with children coming along is that I just want to support them. I want to do what I can do in my career to set them guys up, and then and Jessica, and give us a life that we can really, really enjoy. But on the flip side, spend time with them, which I don't get much of. So I know in the last little bit I had some time off. So over the years there'll be more times where I'll need to have some time with my family. But that's not to say over the next little bit that I'm not going to play a certain format of the game, or I'm going to make decisions based around that. I'm a really great space, but I think moving forward, I definitely haven't got the vision of what I did 3 or 4 years ago, the amount of cricket I may play. It will just be more prioritising what it looks like for Jess, Miller and Harrison.
It's a great answer, and this show in many ways hopes to show a different side of people, and I don't think, I wouldn't have expected that answer from you. So it's a great answer, and it's a caring answer, and obviously you're playing to win, not about averages, which every cricketer and athlete in the country, local, playing for their country, would think, well, that's fantastic. That's someone I want to play cricket with. Trav, when did cricket as a young fella first come into your world? Like, where'd you grow up and what's your first memories of either watching or playing cricket, mate?
So I grew up in Craigmore in the northern suburbs of Adelaide, just on the footsteps of the Brossa and the Gawler. So, first memories of cricket, I actually was playing soccer and drove past and sort of wanted to have a crack at it. And Mum thought I was a bit small and whatnot. And I think Mum was always looking after me. Mum being Mum wanted me to play soccer because it was probably the safest one out of all of them. Dad was obviously grew up playing footy. Dad grew up obviously country town with one of 8 and they all footy, really heavy footy family. So I
Where was that?
the West Coast. So Grandma was in Port Neal for majority of her, which is just down the road from Lincoln, and they swapped around a bit of farming life over there. So, so they were very footy orientated. So I sort of got to a stage where I could make a decision. I ended up playing a lot of footy and cricket. Soccer got in the back burner, which Mum wasn't pleased too much about. But early memories, Craigmore Cricket Club, and then obviously with school stuff and that. But grew to it pretty quickly and found to love it. And nice decision. What
was your backyard setup? I love this. This is across all the sports we do on this show. This is about my favourite question when people that have become Test cricketers tell us about their backyard, because it's such a great part of Australian life. Tell me the backyard setup. Who'd you play with? Was it taped up balls? Was there a lemon tree in a certain position? What was the setup at your joint?
Me and my brother. So Ryan's a couple of years younger than me. So we were in a small place in Craigmore for a while with a small backyard. We'd probably mainly play inside. And then we moved out to the back of Gawler on 10 acres, which didn't stop us from using all the area. We decided to play right under the house in the backyard, which Mum was stoked about. We had a pool fence runway house the other, so it's just sort of like a little courtyard out the back. It was quite big. A little bit downhill for the bowlers, which was good, but it was just generic rules. It was roof is out, windows are out, full auto wicket slips and whatnot. And then you basically, which is amazing, we could only really score straight past the bowler, 4 or 6. Little runs either side on the walls and that, which is amazing because I cannot hit the ball straight to save myself. But I grew up playing this thing where we could only score straight. So, but good fun. We end up, again, why I don't really bowl is we end up working out ways to try and bowl as fast as we can to each other. So whether it's smacking tennis racket ball with a tennis racket, or remember the tennis setup with the concrete thing with the little elastic band attached to it so you can play tennis by yourself. Like we'd set that up on like a ladder and tape it down and then walk 25 metres back with it and then let it go at each other. So all those sort of fun things that we did as kids. So
was it feisty with your brother?
Yeah, real feisty. And he's off his head most of the time. So there was a lot of bat across the shins, and there was a lot of trying to get ways of. The main way was trying to how could we get each other out as quickly as we can, but a bit of pain every now and then. So like cut all the skin off the tennis balls, use the cork, and all those sort of things.
I love that. I love those stories. It's so relatable to everyone. I know you're a Port Adelaide man, in the AFL. What type of junior footballer were you? What position did you play? And no time for modesty. If you had to compare yourself to a modern AFL footballer, the way you played the game, Trav, who are we throwing to the mix?
I couldn't possibly. No, I enjoyed my footy. Played at South Gawler. Sort of tracked through that, and then I was going okay, and then I went to the Ponderosa, went to Centrals to trial with the 18s after a while, and then I ran 2 laps of that oval and knew that I was in for cricket. So I didn't last very long, and that's probably trended in my career. My brother is absolute fitness freak. And I feel like I'm more game day orientated. So, the build up and the lead up for me is not that I'm interested in. I'm interested in the game day stuff. So, as soon as I ran a lap around that joint, which feels about 4K on that oval, I was done with footy. And cricket was going right at that stage. So, a little half forward. Like I couldn't. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
Silky like a Robbie Gray or a more.
That's Robbie will hate that if I said that. But yeah, go on then. I'll go with him. But that's
Okay, Robbie Gray.
not sure. Yeah, I didn't have much of a tank in the middle. That's for sure.
Cricket bat, Trav. What was your first cricket bat?
I had Michael Bevan's Puma, like with the 3 cats, the Millie Champ one. So
Yeah.
that was my first, and then I went full ghillie. So I wicket kept as a kid. So every Christmas I had all the orange ballistic gear, then the green stuff, and then went through that for years with all the Puma, and then I went into Gun and More stuff. So my uncle owned a cricket store, and I was able to swindle a couple of bats from him, which were GM bats, and then the Poms would come over at Teacher Gully Cricket Club every year, and normally they'd leave all their gear behind, and I'd jag a bat every now and then off one of them, which normally were obviously Gun and More bats, and then I was lucky to be sponsored by them for quite a while at the start of my career. So, that was sort of the transition through, but I was full Puma basically, full ghillie for years.
So you're a ghillie man. Was if you had a cricket hero, was a ghillie?
Yeah, it was ghillie. Yeah. I wicket kept at the time, but more so I wanted to twat it like he did and smack it everywhere. And also as a kid growing up, and it's not hard to enjoy like full orange gloves for all out, or he had some flare gear over the years. So I was probably a bit more out there when I was a bit earlier in my years, and I enjoyed the colourful stuff and wearing orange gloves and bats and gloves and all that kind of stuff. So. Crip Boxing Day when he used to roll out the G with his new gear used to be a good day.
We had Maxie on the show recently. Well, actually, two. I don't know if you can match either of these. So before the Perth test, on day 2 morning, I was interviewing Nitish Kumar Reddy. Yeah, you would have played with him, yeah?
At Sunrisers, yeah.
So I threw a question at the end, Trav, just, how you hear Indian kids that have made big scores. And I said to him at the end of the interview, have you ever made a big score? And he said, well, yes, I made a decent score. Do you know what he told me his top score was?
It was like 400 or something, wasn't it?
442, right?
I'm going to give it to him. I can't wait till IPL next year. I'm just going to give him it.
So that was under 16. And I spoke to Maxie, and he was playing in an under 17 game, and he was on 64, and he remembered the bloke's name. He hit him for 6 sixes to bring up his 100. Was there What was Travis' head? I don't reckon you've got a 400 in you, fitness-wise, I don't reckon. What was a big day for Travis Head as a junior?
Oh, as a junior. Honestly, I haven't got... My first-class score was in my highest that I've got. I had one really good game. I remember I never played for the school. I was lucky enough to be playing at Teachery Gully in the 1s and 2s at an earlier age. So I was exempt from playing school cricket. At Trinity College, but I had one intercol game, and we used to play. Then the school's gonna beat me here. But we played one. We played an inter-school game, and would have been in year 11 or 12. So I was like the back end of school, and I was going all right, and I rolled out for a game, and I think I got maybe 170 odd in the first innings. And then rolled 6 for in the bowling innings. So that's one of the best fixtures. Yeah, little dirty things. So bowl from my end. So I reckon, I got 100 and I got 6 for in the same game. Safe to say that was the last time I did that. And so it was quite a while ago. But that's probably, as a junior, that's probably the best one I rolled out.
And if you weren't going to be a cricketer, I'll ask you at what age, 2-part question. At what age did you think, right, I can potentially play cricket for a living? And if that hadn't worked out, what was the career path for Trav at school?
Well, the first part, it happened pretty quickly for me. I didn't play one of the state years early on, 15s or 16s or whatnot. Then I played 17s, and then I was lucky enough to play bottom age 19s. So I was still in the 17s and played 19s. And then my first actual year of 19 state cricket, I blitzed it and played really, really well. And it sort of come out of nowhere. I was playing A-grade cricket, and I think what happens was I was played at such a young age in senior cricket. So I had Peter Sleep at Teachery Gully, who I was in the 4th and 3rds. I did a year of each, really. So I was like really young. And I was...
How young?
I was sort of 14, 15, rolling around in like the 2s and that, trying to keep. Okay. And so I was really, really young. And so I wasn't getting the performances. Like I sort of like Kelvin Smith was the guy that was playing in my year, and like he rolled out hundreds for fun every single week, and all the guys in that age group were doing that in their age groups, and I went unnoticed a little bit because I wasn't getting any runs because I was so small, and I sort of knocked them around a little bit and get out and playing against the big boys, and then I think after a time of doing that, when I went back into 19s, I'd sort of was back in my age group, and then out of nowhere, really, I just had an unbelievable tournament in that 19s. Chuck Berry was coach. South Australia wasn't going great at the time, and it was probably during that little period. So it wasn't until it would have been until 17, 18 that I was really, okay. Well, it would have been 16, 17, sorry, that I really realised that I could probably do it. And then, I had 2 unbelievable under-19 championships in a row. The first one, which got me picked, and then I went back and I played 19s while I was still playing in state cricket. So I just had really one gun under 19s championship, and then 2 weeks later I walked out Adelaide Oval against the Vics. So it went really quickly. Really, I won, and I won one futures game in between that.
So what were you doing if you weren't going to play cricket?
I did a week of plumbing at school, and I did a half a TAFE course of baller making, which we spoke about the other day. And in Adelaide, in 4-degree heat, I'm glad I didn't take up welding. So it would have been trade-based. Around that same time as sort of year 10, year 11 was when cricket sort of started to look like it was going to maybe offer something. And then I stayed at school, which was like a godsend. If I didn't do year 12 and got a job, I wouldn't probably have done it as quickly as I did it, because I was training pretty much every night at that stage. I was taking half days off school. I was fully committed every day of the week pretty much, where if you got a job and you're trying to tell your boss that I got to go to the nets, and he's like, well, hang on, you're an apprentice. Yeah. You can't do that. I would have had to try and find other ways. So I was lucky I stayed in year 12 and just was there pretty much. And it gave me a full year just to sort of nail it. And then I reckon that helped a lot.
So you mentioned your Shield debut. So I think it's 2012. You're age 18. What's it like as an 18-year-old stepping into full professional cricket? I presume you're coming up against national representatives. Like, who were you playing against that was getting up you? Like, it's a very competitive caper, Shield cricket, as an 18-year-old, I would have thought, Trav. Yeah,
it was. We played the Vics back-to-back as well. So I played in Adelaide. It was, Bobby, Quiney, Rogers, White, Hussey, McDonald, Siddle, Holland. I'm trying to think of some of the other bowlers there. Herrick, Jade Herrick would have been one of them as well. And, that was tough. I always tell Ronnie how much of a prick he was. Stood in mid-wicket, him and Bucky. And they never sledged me, but they just picked apart technique. And so I laughed. So then, and then I rolled around the next game to the G. Got the full experience with, I reckon, definitely Adam Crossway. And Ferg definitely played, but Adam Crossway and Ferg took me out for dinner. And we did the old split bill, and I had a Coke and a burger, and they went the steak and wine. So I think that cost me $150. So I learnt pretty quickly that if you're going all in and you're splitting bills, make the most of it. And then I had Peter Siddle bowl like the absolute wind. I've never seen anything like it. So that was, full on. That was a busy 2 week. That was like, okay, welcome to it. Played the Vics, who at the time were probably the best. Full Aussie guys in there. And we played them back-to-back in the space of in 2 weeks. So welcome to first-class cricket.
Looking at the stats, and I got a few from your great mate Laurie Colliver, who does an amazing job with us at Fox Cricket, and I know you know him and he knows your family very well. So you hit Shield cricket, 5 scores in the 90s, 17 scores of 50 or more before you made 100. Was it always coming, or was there an adjustment? And how was that period for you? Because you're making runs. Yeah. That's like 17 scores of 50 or more before you get your first 100.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know it was that many. I knew I had 5, and I knew I had 590. One of them were not out as well, and I was guaranteed 100. I was blocking for the draw. I was spewing. I hadn't got one, and Jake Haverfield come out, and we had like a day and a half to battle the whacker, so I was spewing because I was like, wouldn't mind sort of jagging one here, but and then he got out and ended up being not out. So I think, a few of them, young and stupid, and then I feel a few unlucky ones in there. So that happens. Yeah, it was an interesting time for me because then I took the captaincy over in that period of not getting a first class 100. So
I wanted to ask you about that. So February 2015, you're 21, the youngest captain in the history of 122 years of Saka cricket. How do you find out? And like, you're 21. I don't know if you're a mature 21 or an immature 21. I don't know.
What do you reckon?
Well, immature, but I don't know.
So yeah, we'll get the 100 thing. I think they all coincide with the captaincy. That's where I see it. So I feel like for me, I was a 21-year-old enjoying. Well, I'd been 18 to 21, so yeah, a few years in the system, and I'd got some close mates, and I felt like my job in the team was to keep the vibe up, to be positive, to be energetic, to have a laugh, to take the piss, and we'd go out. We're 18, 19, 20-year-olds, so we're getting up to no good sometimes and having a good time, and I was still going home and catching up with mates, and I was just being a 19, 20-year-old, and I lost a few years of my school life, I think, to cricket. I went out, but I never went to town or anything under 18. I never went underage. I was pretty straight and narrow, and then so I think once I was able to get a contract and I turned 18, and I did enjoy myself a lot at the right times, and I think I was still a very respectful person and whatnot, but there was times in grade cricket where I probably didn't present myself the way I should have and all those things, but I think everyone has to go through those stages. So I, funnily enough, rang my dad when Tim Nielsen called me and said, catch up at coffee. And I laughed and jokingly said, like, I'm either getting the sack or getting captaincy. I'm not sure which one it is. And that was tongue in cheek. But I really didn't know what I was going in for. And then, and he presented the opportunity to captain the team. And I obviously took it, being very naive at the time, not knowing what I was getting myself into. And, Kane
What were you getting yourself into? Like, you would have had senior players 6, 8, 10 years old, I presume.
Yeah. Ronnie was still around, and all that. Yeah. It was a tough stage, obviously. Boats was on the Boats obviously pulled it halfway through, and then Chuck was going through some stuff. So it was extremely tough. But I think that's what made me a better batter, because I felt like the only way I could gain respect from the team was to present to do it on the field, and I think that's what turned me into being what I perceive myself as, a game day person. Like, I think the first day on the job as captain, we had 2K and I rocked up late in my old Holden Calais. It's like coming at a million miles an hour, basically parked it on the start line, jumped out and went, all right, boys, let's do it. And it was like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? And I was sort of joking. I was like, all right, come on, what are we wasting our time for? Hurry up. No, I was late. And I was like, ugh. But I think the boys also, I don't know, but I hope the boys also took light in that. Like, there was definitely years after I got into it where I got frustrated and got with performances and team, and sometimes it built up, and I dealt poorly with like how my teammates reacted to, I guess, selection and adversity and that, and I don't have a great deal of empathy. And when you have close friends in that space, I found it really, really tough to have conversations with them to work through that. There was some pretty tough times. I think that's why I looked at captaincy differently now, and where I'm at in my career. Talking about those early years of school, missing out on all the fun stuff and then getting it, I sort of did the same thing when I took the captaincy over. I sort of probably lost myself a little bit through the middle. Had a huge fear of missing out, had massive anxiety around what people thought of me. I wanted to be liked and everything. And in that job, you can't be liked by everyone. And I understand now that not even in that job, in terms of general life, you're not going to be liked by everyone. So I understand that a lot better now, and I do look at captaincy and leadership a lot differently. But I think at the time when I took over at 21, it grew me so quickly as a batter. And as a person of leading on the out, and just what responsibility I need to take on the out. I think the first game I might have done was a one-dayer against WA, and I got a double 100 at Hurstville, and that sort of set the tone for the season. It set the tone. It was a win, and I felt like I'm here and I can lead with the bat. And if I'm going to be the worst captain ever, I don't care, as long as I can earn respect with what I do with my work and with the bat. So I think that was what coincided with no 100 into the next few years being a lot more consistent and a few really, really good match-winning innings.
You've been vice-captain of your country, and I know Pat is there, and Pat's doing the job, and Pat does an amazing job, and he's obviously a wonderful captain. But you never know what's around the corner. Like if you'd said to me last week, Hazelwood's not playing and Boland's going to play, and Bo Webster will be in the squad and Brendan Doggett, I'll be saying, oh, hang on, I didn't see any of that coming. So things happen quickly. If the opportunity presented to captain your country, how would you approach that? Would you enjoy that?
Well, I had the opportunity to do it in Cardiff in the T20s.
Yes.
And again, like you said, if you ask me, I'm only hesitant around what it looks like because of what I've done for South Australia and through all the just the added extra stuff you got to do. And I haven't had that in the last 4 or 5 years. And obviously I gave the captaincy up for South Australia this year and Nathan's doing a great job. And that was the right time to do that and just step away from it all here and just really concentrate on what I need to do with a young family. So it takes its toll and you're emotionally connected to it and you want to do well. So it takes a lot of time and effort. So, and then seeing Pat do it from an Australian perspective is that man is the busiest bloke I've ever seen. Like, yes, I give him a fair bit of shit about how much sponsorship does and how many deals he's got everywhere and like trying to work all that, what he's doing and what ads he's doing is crazy enough. But then to captain Australia, like that bloke is the busiest man in the world with a young family. I just couldn't imagine myself being like right now, like with 2 kids trying to do that job would be chaos. To then be who I am, if that makes sense. Like I wouldn't want to be anyone different than who I am right now because I'm really, really enjoying that. So yeah, it'd be. I feel like I can play a role in vice captain. If something happened, then yeah, I'd take the opportunity. But in a full-time space, I think I'm sweet because Pat's going all right.
Yes.
We're the same age. So when that time comes, I think I find myself as more of a person that can help things and I love what I do and I have passion for it and I feel like I can give plenty. But yeah, there's bigger, prettier people than me that can be the face of it. If that makes sense. That's how I feel about things right now. I'm there if they need. But right now I'm in such a good space personally that, and it's nothing we need to really, I don't worry about it. A lot of people do. A lot of people ask me about it and like, yeah, you're not going to say no, you're not going to do it, but there's definitely hesitation around that. And I don't think I have to worry about it because it's not something that's going to come up.
I think there's always a performance drive that an athlete comes onto the consciousness of the country or internationally, if you're an international sportsman. I think back to New Year's Eve and your 100 versus the Sixers. And I think you guys needed 51 to win and you were on 45 and somehow made 100. I didn't know Gilly was your hero. And then Gilly was brilliant in commentary. And it was New Year's Eve. There was a lot of people watching. And it was like, wow, who is this bloke, Travis Head? What are your memories of that? And do you reckon that's a correct observation that a lot more people would have known who you were at that stage after that?
Yeah, I feel like first, I think like the Big Bash has done that for a lot of people. Has set the platform for young kids coming through. You only got to look at right now with sort of Ollie Davies and McGurk and all these guys. Like they're what we were. Yeah, it was a long time ago. In the early years of Big Bash, when young guys are coming through and we had a platform. So when I talk about like my early years as a leader and what I wanted to do and how I wanted to be perceived, is that's that night that was on the bigger stage. I feel like I'd done that already in Shield cricket a couple of times, and I'd done that in one-day cricket a couple of times for South Australia, where I'd be able to win games and and have really, really good days out of nowhere and really great performances that were winning games that we felt like we couldn't, and that's what I want to do, and I feel like. That night was a kickstart of it all, and yeah, who knows? I never knew what was going to come from it. But yeah, look back and Strikers are still holding on to New Year's Eve night, which is quite cool. We still get to play it, so it's nice to have as some sort of a playing hand in creating what has been a really amazing night for Adelaide, for the Strikers. So. And I said that when we were playing them and when I was leading them, I said, if we stuff these nights up and we don't play well, we won't get it back. So that was the one night that I made sure that like I wanted to play well as a team and I wanted to play well personally because it was such a cool night to play. There's 50,000 people at Adelaide Oval.
And
you don't want to give that up. You don't want to give that up. So I was like, we had such a great opportunity as a team. So I was like, if we cock this thing up, we're never coming back. So let's make sure we do it well. So nice on that night. It was like, okay, we got 50,000 here and we're looking down the barrel. So, and then, yeah, crazy, obviously, next sort of 25 minutes that we win a game of cricket like that. And yeah, amazing night.
National representation. Obviously, we have long discussions typically around this about when you played your first game for your country, Trav. Now, knowing you are a light-hearted bloke that you are, I'm not sure whether you'll be able to reel this off. But just simple questions here. 26th of January 2016, you debuted, because this podcast aims to show there's ups and downs along the way, right,
Yeah.
Trav? Debut in T20 cricket versus you're in Adelaide. Do you remember how many you made?
Not many, single figures. Yep.
Let's say.
Yep.
Then, 13th of June 2016, your one-day international debut versus the West Indies in Basseterre. Do you remember how many you made that day?
Not many. I was stiff there because I was slogging at the end. I walked out late and tried to hit one and smacked it up the air in St. Lucia.
So that was
Yeah.
that was
I was
one.
doing the team thing that day. I was no good in Adelaide. I was no good in Adelaide, but I was team thing in St. Lucia.
And then, obviously, your test debut, which you made runs in the second innings. We'll get to your first innings in a moment. But what did it mean to you to become a test match cricketer? I think Nathan Lyon gave you your cap. It's against Pakistan in Dubai, so it's not that story place to make your test debut, Hetty.
I said that to Buddha during the week, Mick Sweeney. I said, you got to. I had a much easier week going into mine because there was not many people. There was family, but yeah, about 8 people rocked up, and a bit different to a first test in Perth with all the hype that was last week. So I was like, good luck with that one. I can't give you much advice about it all. Again, that come at a interesting time. We'd obviously gone through South Africa. There's guys, Steve and Bangers and Davey were out. I don't think I would have played for Australia at that time if that wasn't the case. So I was very lucky. I feel like I was probably still a few years away from that. I didn't really had it on my radar. And then we went on an Australia A tour to India, and I did okay. And they picked the squad off the back of that, and I was in it. So again, I knew I was close-ish. I had a great relationship with Buff at the time as his coach, and whenever we'd talk, he'd be like, "You're close, but you pull your finger out and get some bloody runs, it'd be nice at the right time." There's a few times I got some runs at the wrong time, and so I knew I was on the radar. But yeah, those guys going out of that team at that time, and again, you make the most of it and get some runs at certain times and that, and you find myself in there. That yeah, I was probably ahead of my time in that as well, which I had been my whole career with everything I'd done has been a little bit ahead of time. So yeah, but an amazing moment.
So you made a duck, but then you made 72 in the second innings. How many test matches, Trav, till, and I know you're not a statistically oriented guy, but you want to be confident of your position in the team. How many test matches till you felt comfortable? You've gone up levels very quick in your career as a test match cricketer. And what adjustments did you have to make?
This week? No, I don't know if you ever feel comfortable. No, for me, everything stems back to that one test in Brisbane in the Ashes. So I'd been dropped 3 or 4 times before that. I'd been in and out. Hadn't batted particularly well, and fought a few things and technique and all those things. And I always felt like when I was going through that, I feel like some first-class cricketers go into test cricket and go, this is how I got here. This is how I'm going to do it. I've got here doing a certain thing, and this is how I'm going to do it. And I was the opposite. I was like, I'm here, and now I've got to get better. And I've got to get, like, what's got me here has got me here. But then to mix it with these big boys, I need to get better. So then I tried, so I was still working on my game, and I couldn't split between the training part and the work on my game part, my technique part. So I'd be trying to do technique and face Starkey or something, and we get knocked over all the time. And my net sessions were horrific for years.
Really?
Until I sort of started to work out that I was always trying to work technique because I was trying to get better. So, and then you get older and whatnot. But yeah, I got dropped a few times, and then it got to that stage of Pat and Ron taking over. Well, JL was still there, sorry. Pat had taken over, and it was, the messaging was, I got back in the team. It was me or Uz. I got the nod, which was, I feel like lucky at the time. Uz had gone really, really well. I'd saved my ass and got 100 at Karen Rolton like the week before the first test. I hadn't started great in the Shield, but yeah, I got 100 against Queensland in the second innings, and then got the nod from George. And Pat just said, just do you, just play. And I think that just opened it all up, just to, again, getting to that stage of like not caring what everyone thought, not caring what, statistics and all this stuff. And yes, it's important, and yes, you still want to stack up well against everyone, and you want to, you hold pride in what you do. But I was like, okay, I've been dropped 4 times. This is the chance, and I either get it or I don't, and I'll hopefully become a really, really strong Shield cricketer for South Australia, and hopefully win some silverware here, and can give something back and be a really good teammate, or I can play well, and you never know where this thing might go. So I don't know. I might have been 20 odd tests in at that stage, and walk out of the Gabba and peel off 150, and I got 100 in a session. It was just the craziest day in the world.
And I think from the outside looking in, knowing you but not knowing you that well, Trav, and we have a lot of kids listening to this. A lot of people. We're privileged that quite a few people listen to this podcast. If anyone asked me about the Australian cricketers, when they asked me about you, I said, I think he's been successful because he's been himself, which is a really important lesson for everyone in life, Trav. So that's your mantra now. Be yourself. Don't matter about the way your batting looks or having the most perfect back foot defence shot. It's be yourself and play your game. That's you.
Yeah, but I also went through a hell of a long time to get to that stage.
So how did you get to that stage?
By getting dropped numerous times, to getting no runs, to going through adversity away from the game, understanding myself a lot more than children. This is the whole progression of that. And I'm like, okay, everyone's got to work. I was Marnus at one stage where I hit 1 million balls and trained and batted every morning of a Shield game, and I'd get there early and padded fully up and face sidearm for 45 minutes and do all that kind of stuff. I went through that period. Then I went through nothing. Then I went back to it, and then I started writing a journal. Then I wouldn't write a journal. Then I wrote it again, and then I didn't. And I watched heaps of footage. Then no footage. So you got to do it all, and if you don't do it all, then you don't know what you got. So now I don't write a journal. I hardly watch any footage. I don't bat if I don't. I only bat on the days I think I'm going to bat in a test. Do you know what I mean? So I get slow throws. I do technique stuff. It's very simple, but I've done all my work into the test. So my next 3 days are huge in terms of what I do. They'll be my biggest 3 days of training now. I'll do one really good session, hopefully against the bowlers. If I'm lucky enough, I might face some net bowlers, and I face the coaches for a little bit, and they could be ranged from 20 minutes or they could be an hour. I couldn't tell you. But I'll know when it feels right. And then once it feels right, shut it down and just go play the game. So,
wow. But
I've learnt that over a long period of time, and I've watched other people and been around Davey who does that, who does a lot less, and he's a freak. Watch Smithy do heaps. So I think once I got the Australian team and seen other guys do it, I then learnt myself. And then once you have that, and I'm so relaxed going into a game, in terms of what I know I can do, I'll be packing it and nervous as about what the outcome might be. But then when I walk out, I don't have to worry about my game anymore. Like, I'm not worried about my batting anymore. I am, but I'm not like deep diving into it going like, oh my God, like I'm not getting good stride to the ball, or where am I pre-moving? No, like watch the ball, problem solve, and you're good enough to do it, and just go do it. And then there's a few other, there's a few technical things that I do. Like I don't like trends. So if I'm getting out, it's like I don't like trends in the same, don't get out the same way twice in the game. And a few people back in the day were like, and try and get 100 every game. The average 50. The greats average 50. So if you get a duck in the first innings, there's an opportunity in the second. So who cares what happened in the first? There's still an opportunity to come out of the game with something, which is what happened last week, if that makes sense. So I come out of the game with 90 and 11 or something. So 100 in the game. If you're normally getting 100 runs in the game, you're making input. You're impacting something in the game. You're not just a passenger. So, and that's not always going to happen. No, there's not many people average 50 anymore, unless you're a freak. But those sort of things, I think, keep your mind on the next thing. And I don't get caught up in too much of it.
So you mentioned you've been dropped 4 times, and you've had ups and downs away in cricket. What's been your toughest period in the game or away from the game to get to this point now where you have innate self-belief to go and do it your way?
Again, going into that test match at the Gabba, I lost my contract at the start of that year. So I was in the Flinders with Jessica's family, her dad's 60th. No phone reception. I think I was there for 10. We drove around 8-10 days. And Trevor Hone's trying to get hold of me. And I'm off grid completely. I think Dizzy was going to try and drive around the Flinders and try and find me at one stage to try and tell me. But I knew that list was coming out, and I was like, I can go away. It doesn't matter. I'm on the list. Like, I'll get a contract. I'll be, with all the talk that we'd had and everything, I was like, I'll be fine. So it doesn't matter. It will be released. I'll get home in 4 or 5 days, and I'll read it online or creed.com or whatever. And then I remember we stopped at the night, and we hit some Wi-Fi, and you paid $20 for about a gig or something, and then my phone just lit up. It was like, what is going on? And yeah, found out I'd lost my contract, and I was like, okay, sort of blind, like just hit me. I was like, okay, this might not be, yeah. And then you obviously go through a dark couple of days. It was good that I was away. It took my mind away from things. Being in the Flinders, being with family. So I sort of parked it, not worried about it. And I think that meant that helped a lot. I didn't sit around not doing anything and thinking about it. And then I went straight to Sussex. So I had an absolute stinker. I averaged about 10, didn't get any runs. I thought, I'm in some strife here. But yeah, so that was the hardest period. But then that coincided with the Gabba in that first Ashes test. So yeah. And I haven't looked back since, really. So to have such a low to then go to such a high, it's just so hard to explain, if that makes sense. Like, I've been able to problem solve a lot of my career, and I've had a lot of down moments, but I've been able to back that up quickly with some really good moments that then kickstarted me again. And I feel like, yeah, that part of me that doesn't dwell on things, that moves on, that gets on with things, that's, just sort of crack on, has sort of made sure that those lulls don't go for too long, if that makes sense. I've been very fortunate in the game that those lulls haven't touched wood. But even during the summer last year, I had some really, really down moments, but I got 100 in Adelaide. And so it was like, it wasn't too bad as some. You got 100. They were hard to come by last year. So it was like making good of summers that aren't so good, and you're going to have bad moments, but yeah, trying to minimise them as much as you can. And that's another moment that's gone from the ultimate low of losing contract and thinking maybe that was it in my international career, to then 6 months later, you're playing a huge role in an Ashes series and winning a home Ashes.
Talk about Ashes. There's 3 moments in your career I want to talk to you about. 163 in the World Test Championship final. I don't know how you felt when you're out there, but what's it like when you are playing in an enormous game of cricket against, well, ostensibly, you're India, the best Test nation in the world, and you're just smacking them, and you look in command and you look in flow. What is that moment like? Could you explain where you've come from? You've lost contracts. You've been in and out of the side. What's it like when you are in command?
Well, I'm glad it looks like that, because it's not how that's not how that's the big innings. Like, so we're going to talk about that one, and we're going to talk about the World Cup. Both of them are not that. I don't know what the other one is, but those two are. I was flapping, like not flapping, but I was in different headspaces. So the World Test Championship, I'd just been on a 6-week honeymoon.
Yes.
So I was rough as guts with the bat, like leading into that test. And I've talked about it a bit. Like, I was packing it. I was like, well, I'm looking to the biggest game, and I feel so underdone.
Huh.
And and when I have gone through adversity, or when I have felt like that, and this is what children have been really good. Or look, if I don't take the business down with Jess, and I'm on tour and I get the odd blow up from Jess, and she's not really pleased with me, and I'm like, stressing about that. I've never thought about the game. So like in that space, I was like, what do I do? What do I do that for? Like the honeymoon was amazing. I'm like, oh no, like I'm not going to back any runs. And my mind was just like taken away from the game, if that makes sense. So like when if some of the darkest times I've had in a hotel room away, missing family and that, I've forgotten about the game, and then I walk out the next day and get runs. And it's like, because I'm not thinking about the game. I think in that moment I was just like, bugger it. Like, I'm not feeling good. I haven't batted well for the last 6 days. I'm in some strife here. Just go out and play the game. Just take it for what it is. Enjoy the moment. And then, funnily enough, in those moments, normally, sometimes you play your best when you're not thinking about it. So that's one of those games.
You mentioned, and whenever this topic comes up, everybody understands that you and all your teammates are extremely grateful for what you do. You get really paid really well for what you do, and you're in an enormously privileged position due to your skill and talent and hard work. But it does come with a lot of time away. How do you deal with being away from Jess and the kids, and you're sitting in a hotel room and you've just made a duck in a test match, and people are calling for your job, and you're in a hotel room on the other side of the world? What's that like for you?
Honestly, I don't think it changes from a duck to 100.
Okay.
It just revolves around how well home's going, basically for me. So if I feel the pressures of I'm not up to scratch on what I could, like,
Yep.
I think the performance dwells on me, that sometimes you might feel like you're wasting your time because you're not playing very well. But I feel like for me, it's if Miller's had a really rough day and Jess had no sleep and things are building up at home, or Miller gets sick, Jess gets sick, and she can't sort of do the things that she needs to do, and I feel like I'm away, and I can't do anything, I feel that's probably the hardest time. So it's probably more just what it goes on at home reflects on how I'm feeling at that time, because I care and I want to be there for him. So they're the hardest times, I think. Not the game's the game. Like, honestly, like, you can't do much about it. What happens, you can, and you do dwell on it. But at the end of the day, like, me getting a duck, like, isn't comparing to probably what's going on at home with working out bills and the house and kids and school runs, and like, that's tougher than what I do. Added on to the fact that we get a very privileged life and we're staying in a nice hotel, and I might play a round of golf or go have a nice feed and enjoy myself, and I can't sit in my room and not enjoy myself. So there's also probably the part of me that doesn't want to rub it in as such. We've probably lost the right words for it. And then vice versa with Jess is
Absolutely.
not holding on to that and going, oh, you're on a holiday, because it's still work. But sometimes it can feel like a holiday. So having respect and understanding around how that looks like as well has changed a lot over the last little bit. But yeah, that's probably that's the hardest thing I find in my career at the moment is my family time and what the family means to me, and what I can do to support them. I've said this to Ron numerous times, is especially in the last sort of 6 months when this topic's come up a lot with the family, is that I can play every single day if I need to. Like, everyone goes through hard times at work. Everyone goes through times where they're not as happy as they would like to be, or they're doing it tough. And there's no doubt in cricket that you can do that. But I can rock up at cricket with being in the worst mood ever and still perform. But I want to go home to a family. So I can play, I can give you 365 days of the year, but that's not like, I'll be single. Do you know what I mean? Like, I won't have a family and other things that I want. So you've got to prioritise that. So I need to be able to support home as much as I can. I know we've talked about this, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but yeah, that's the hardest thing I find in my career. Not the day to day. Am I going to get runs on Friday? Like, it's all good.
I think anyone that travels work can understand with where you're coming from. You mentioned the World Cup final, which I really want to talk to you about. But before that, you're involved in that incredible Ashes in England, where you won the first two and then it ended up being a 2-2 draw. But the famous talking point coming out of it is the arrival at the break going through the members, which caused all sorts of controversy. What was your experience of that? I've heard a few of the guys talk about it, but what was your experience of that and the venom that was directed towards anyone wearing a baggy green that day?
I guess I'm someone with, I can see both sides of things. Not always, like, in the moment, but like, I can understand where it was coming from, and I still feel like we did the right thing, or we went about it the right way. Like, there was no, what Alex did was, he didn't hold on to the ball. Like, he did it in a one action, one moment. Yep. There was nothing sneaky about it, and that I felt like we were right. And then also the flip side, I can understand where they were coming from. Like, he's not trying to take an advantage. He's not trying to take a run. It was just the perfect worlds colliding into one. Like, he made a mistake. I feel like Jonny still made a mistake, walked out his crease when he shouldn't have. And Alex and a few other guys opportune at the time, but not opportune in a way of trying to gain an advantage. It was just like, that was the play. The ball was live. He just let it go straight away. So I could see both, but I could see both sides of it. So I sort of, and when on the boundary at Lords, you're not trying to rough him up too much. So like, there's some sort of sympathy in it, and I was like, oh well, it is what it is. And then the Lords and the room, the long room was a bit full on, but They're passionate, and what do you expect? Like, we've seen the same this week after one loss, like how passionate our fans are. They feel like we're taking advantage. There's a huge rivalry. They're going to react that way. Vice versa, if it probably happened in Australia. If England come next year and someone feels like someone takes an advantage of things, it's going to kick off.
Yes, it will.
So that's what it is.
The World Cup final, which is I'm privileged enough to be there, Trav. And for me, like I look at it, I said to someone the other day, I think on the podcast, to me, I've been lucky enough to see Kathy Freeman win a gold medal, to see John Aloisi slot that penalty, and to see Australia win a World Cup in front of whatever the crowd was, whether it was 95,000, 110,000, 125,000. Before we get to your innings, Rohit Sharma was going bananas at the top, and it looked like, right, India's going to make 350. And then Maxi comes on, and you took a catch. Everyone asked you about your innings, but it was a very, very sharp catch. And it from there, like they went an enormous period of time without boundaries and all sorts. It was a game-changing moment before you even walked out with a bat, Trav.
Yeah, and there's a fair bit of play out that because obviously I broke my hand leading into the World Cup. And I reckon, and so I was out on the boundary and then Davey swapped with me. So basically since when I come back, from when I come back to that World Cup, I reckon I might have caught 3 balls, 1 in the game, 2 at training, I reckon. My hand was in the field, was like stuffed pretty much. So I would hide around the field. The boys really looked after me and where I fielded and what position. So like I was out in the deep at that time. And Davey, pretty much the ball before, swapped with me to get me into that space because basically what we did was wherever the ball spun towards, I stayed on the other side. So with Maxi, it was going, mainly the ball go that way. So Davey went to Rohit's leg side, which I was stuck on, and then I come to the offside and hit away sort of at point, thinking the ball shouldn't get there. It's like they were just hiding me, which was nice. And then that goes up, and then held on to it. So not sure if I should have been there or not. I'm not sure where I should have been fielding. And then Rohit's pretty unlucky because at that time with everything that was going on with my hand, as I hadn't looked at really a high ball since South Africa, so it'd been a bit stiff.
When you busted your hand, did you think that's my World Cup, or do you think no, I can? It was dropped the first couple of games. Australia's made the wrong call, picking Travis Head. He's not there. We've stuffed this. We're not even going to see Travis. We're going to lose the World Cup in the lead up. We're not going to make the semi-finals. Like it was on. Like the critics were out big time at that. Did you think I'm a bit cooked here, or did you have faith that you'd be able to get back physically to play?
No, I thought I was stuffed at the time in South Africa. I hadn't gone back and had like the full scans and everything, but Ronnie and I'm a bit bullish on Ron and Bales are copping it a little bit at the moment with certain selections over the last 12 months. Like they won that World Cup off the back of what they did. Like Ron had a few beers that night when I broke my hand and I was like pretty flat. I was like, sorry mate, like. He's like, no, we're gonna keep you in. And Pat said the same thing. He's like, we're gonna keep you in, and we're gonna win a World Cup because of the way we're gonna stack up. So he's like, you're gonna win this. Not me, but like, you are a huge piece in the puzzle in how we want to set up to win this World Cup, and it's gonna be vital. So you're staying, and we're gonna keep you in the squad. And so like him and George, I think, don't get enough credit for like the moves that they made during that World Cup to basically like obviously played a huge role in the semi and the final to win it, and if I think they would have went on the sensible side of things, I wouldn't have been there, if that makes sense. They were on the bowl, they're like, no, this is the way we're going to win it. Like that was stuck in their head. Like that I was going to open with Davey, that Mitch was then going to be at 3, that we're going to build up and we're going to have all our hitters and we only played one spinner pretty much for the whole World Cup, and that was ballsy. Like there was a lot of moving pieces in that team that Ron and Bales and whatnot need to take credit, that don't get enough credit for, I don't think. And yeah, Ron telling me that night, then me going home and finding out they've had surgery on 10, 12 weeks. If I don't have surgery and wear a plaster for 4 weeks, I'm a chance at 6 or 7. So that's right at the back end of the tournament. It was killing me. And then I took the cast off and hit I would have had 3 batting sessions. And it was like, and it wasn't. It was. I think I was running at 40% strength in my left to my right. And this is not to ham it up and make it a great story, but I was cooked pretty much. And then, but they were like, "You're coming," and so I went. And then We held off on the Netherlands because I'd had one hit and there was still a fair bit of pain in certain situations. But moving around felt all right, and I was like, I can do it. Like, I could do it for you. Like, I'm happy to run the risk. Like, I don't really care. Like, I'm happy to, because like I love Ron and I love Camo, so I'm like, I'll do it for you if you need me, and you feel like I can still play a role. So then and then they picked me for that first game against New Zealand, and fairly taped up, and a few drugs and adrenaline's a great thing, but I did hit
167 trap.
Yeah, I know, but I did hit Bolty over his head like for the third or fourth ball, and like almost killed over with how much I was like, oh, that hurt like a lot. And I'd faced the boys in the nets the day before, and it was not too bad, but I couldn't bat really. And they only let me do that because I needed to. I was like, I need to see the ball coming down at me to play tomorrow. Like, I can't not. But I was only allowed to bat every sort of 3 days because it would swell up, and then we had to get it back down, and it was quite sore. Because I turned it around in 5 weeks, like bang on the fifth week, I think, or just under on 5 weeks. So I'd only been out of the cast for a week. So I was pushing it. I know it was skinny, it was ugly, it was bruised all the time. It wasn't pretty, but I think Matt Henry bowled back-to-back free hits in that innings. And the first one was on the top of the stumps. Dharmashala, it's nice. It's small ground, makes me look good, but I was able to get it for 6. And he bowled another no ball straight off that back of that one. And he bowled a bouncer, and I got that for 6. And that was almost like my fitness test. Okay, I can slog it off the top of the stumps, and pain's pain, but it's not too bad. And they bowled me a bouncer, and I hadn't. And that had been the thing that hurt the most, when I flicked my hand and my wrist and where the break was, and I got it and hit it well, and I was like, okay, this thing, I can deal with this. This is all right. So that was almost my fitness test. It was like back-to-back free hits, swing it as hard as you can, because I hadn't swung very hard yet. I didn't know if I could hit a 6. And I got back-to-back free hits, and I swung my ears off on both of them, and both had some pain, but not too bad. And I was like, okay, I'm away here. And then, we managed it through the rest of the tournament, and I was able enough to pull my finger out and help the guys that made that decision make it worthwhile, because there was definitely moments where it was like there was a lot of messages going back and forth, going, okay, like, how real is this, and are we right? And they were so strong in India. They were the coaches and the staff, and everyone was just so adamant that we're going to make this thing work. Like, get here and let's just see it. So like, I flew there with them, not seeing it. Like, I'd hit tennis balls. Like, I was probably a week and 2 weeks away from actually menting to fly. Like, I just went there, like, let's just see you. Come, hit balls and let's see where we get to. Got there and then just was like, okay, this is a thing we might be able to do.
I didn't know you were that far back in the field. Like, you mentioned that 100, then you play the match in the semi at Eden Gardens, 62 or 48 plus twofer with the turning tweakers. Gets to the final, you keep India to 240. Before we talk about the innings, which that first 10 overs was, I think it's the most amazing cricket I've seen live. Yep. It was extraordinary, the atmosphere and the tension and the way the ball was moving. So at the innings break, ignorant question, does the captain or the coach address the team? Okay, we're chasing 240, or is it just there's no discussion, you know what you got to do?
No, there's no discussion. I just stuck my pads on and got what I needed to do to get ready to go. So,
what's it like walking out to bat in front of 120,000 people, just going bananas for India?
Can't remember that part. The part that the stuff when it starts to get real is when Davey nicked the first ball for the slips for 4, and then when Davey got out, the roar when Davey got out was huge. More so even with Smithy. And then, we were like, we were 3 for 40 odd, 3 for 45. Yes. I reckon there was only about 12 off the bat, or 18 off the bat. It was bugger all that. There was wides going everywhere. The ball was shooting around. It was like, what is going on?
47. Yeah. Boomer and Shammy were swinging around corners.
And I was just like,
the window was shaking.
I think we took 15 off the first or something like that. Well, how much did we take off the first off of?
Something like that.
Yeah, we got it. Davey nicked one, and I got a couple through the covers, and I was like, we're home here. We're 15 already. Like this. Put it on ice. Like, we're sorted here. And then all of a sudden, the place felt like it was going to come down. Like, it was and I don't know who. I think it was Davey. When Virat catches him, the camera is like, when they show the replay, they show the group shot of Virat, and the boys are coming in, and the camera is like genuinely shaking. Yes. The ground was just going bizarre. I'd never heard anything like it, and I was just like, okay, we don't need a hell of a lot. We've got off to a fly. We're on 50 already. We just got to we just got to try and take some steam out of this thing. So we actually went quite slow, I think, for the next, so like 5, 6, 7 overs. We nerdled a couple of boundaries away and got through Shami and Boomer. And the moment where I knew that we were a sniff was when Siraj bowled his first ball. It like slid on, I cut it past point, and the wicket just felt like it just, all the air had sort of come out of the game. Almost. Like we just sort of got momentum. The wicket felt like it got a bit dewy. And that sort of skidded on and hit it, and I was like, wow, okay, like that felt good. That was not like, okay, we feel like we're back on level pegging here and we can start to make some inroads in it. So, but yeah, that first 15 overs was just chaos.
And at what stage are you batting out there with Marnus and, you put on 192? At what stage do you actually say to each other, we're going to win the World Cup final? We
didn't at all. I said with like 50 to go, I felt like we were home. I felt like we were home. This is going to sound ridiculous, but like with 50, 60, it felt like we were like right on the doorstep of it. But we were so far away still. When it got down to like 25, I reckon Richie Kettleborough were umpiring. So Illingworth and Kettleborough were umpiring, and both of them at the same. I like a chat and that. With like 20, 30 get, I was like, I need to get off this field. Like this is, like, I just can't comprehend this anymore. Like, and at that time, I was looking at it going like, we're gonna win the World Cup. Like, I'm on 100. I'm like, what is going on? Like, I said to them, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, what is like this is out of this world? And they were like, it is. Like, no one ever. It was India's to win. Like the whole tournament. It was just they flew through it, and we've come out of nowhere. And like we had a rough start. I'd obviously missed the starting point. So I come in at a good time. I think where like new face. Tell them all how bad they played for the first 4 weeks, and like, all right, let's get back on the horse. And I was just like, what is like going from being nowhere 4 weeks ago to being out here and just being like, holy moly, like this thing's happening. And then it was like when I realised that it was like 25, 30 to get, and I was like, it's so close, and I was like, I just need to like get them, like hurry up and get these things, and let's get off this field and let's get go, like. Almost like, let's get on this plane and let's take the trophy and let's get out of here. Like, it's an absolute robbery. So that's how it felt. But yeah, it felt like we fielded, I always said this, it felt like we fielded like 7 hours, and it felt like we batted about 15 minutes. Like it just flew. Like, yeah, by the end it was like, what had just happened? So yeah, cool night.
The thing that took the longest was the presentation. I think it took that the Prime Minister.
I was happy to deal with that. It was all done and dusted. I was happy. He could still be going for all I care. Like we were just all sitting there, and that was the most. For us, I think that was like for people that aren't like in it. Like for us, we were just sitting there, and I think we were all going, "Holy, what did we just do?"
Yes.
And we spent a fair bit of time, obviously, waiting for all that. And yes, we were keen and everything, but like we weren't going. We had a couple of quiet ones in the change rooms, but Matabad is a dry state, so we weren't rushing anywhere to do it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like we're like, okay, like we're just. It is what it is, and there was a blue light show going above their heads, and it was like, wonder why it was blue. I think they had it set up for something. But all taking all that in and all standing there on that ground was waiting for it. It would have been long for everyone else, but for us, it was just like, it was just surreal. It was just like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, as I said, it's one of the greatest things I've seen in sport live. The sunnies, Trav, that you're wearing afterwards, are they as rumoured service station sunnies, or is that because I look at your teammates and they've all got these $300 pairs of sunnies on, and yours maybe $300 pairs of sunnies, but they didn't look like them.
They're Zamps's, so Zamps had it, and yeah, I feel like he would have had them on a few times. They're the Boles. He had them, and I think just because I was on an absolute heater, he just sort of succumbed to it. I've still got them. They're in my backpack. Kept around for a rainy day. They haven't come out. I think they come out the SCG. I think Mitch was around the SCG after that last year. They come out on a rainy day. I haven't brought them out for a while, but social media. It's a wonderful thing, isn't it? A few things a few unforced errors from me on a couple of them, but mainly the others stitched me up a little bit. But
I don't think that is. I think that is just showing you a regular Australian bloke that, like any athlete, whether it's C grade with bow and heads or playing for Australia, you should be allowed to celebrate your successes because there's so many failures along the way. Like I think that's what you're in the sport for, to celebrate with your mates achieving something that's truly remarkable and lifted the entire country, Trav.
No, yeah, don't get me wrong. I would do some things slightly different because I did have a family. There's some things. The whole situation has overawed me. I think on day 4 when me and Zance was still drinking Bloody Marys and Vizag, I thought we might have been stretching it out of touch. But no, there's things that I had my family and I just got so overawed by the situation of everything. I just sort of lost the plot a little bit because it was just I could not comprehend it all. So I got a bit lost in everything. As you do. And then you add, like, obviously we had a drink and all that, and decision making goes impaired a little touch. And so I think that whole 48 hours was just chaos, which drifted out a little bit longer than that at certain stages. But yeah, I think just that whole situation just was so overwhelming that, I look back and go, the boys laugh when they give me stick when I say I would change a few things that I did after it. But then there's another side of me, why would you? Because, they understand that the emotion and what went on was just so chaos, and I just got lost in it all. So, but again, nothing bad. And I don't feel like it. Yeah, and it's still the stuff we did, and we didn't do anything wrong. We were just having a great time between 16 or 20 of us with all the staff, 25 of us, and it was an amazing few days, and we'd achieved something that I hope we achieve again, but we might never ever do it again. So. I did say at the time I'm looking forward to 10-year reunions, the 20 years, the 30-year reunions. I'll bung it on a bit more by then, and we got the World Cup rings and a few things to remember it. So it's amazing. So I wouldn't change it for the world.
No, and nor should you. There's been some some legends of Australian cricket. Alan Border obviously had the little twitchy Mo and Merv Hughes, David Boone. Is this? Are you just trying to join the culture of Australian tough cricketers wearing moustaches? How's this received at home? Are you pushing on with it?
I wouldn't say tough. It's been. I've always had it for as long as I can remember. It's got longer at certain. Jess hates it.
No,
I think she hates more everything else. So this is all going to go at some stage. She likes me. She would love me clean shaven. I was clean shaven for our wedding. I think that was the one time in the last sort of 6-7 years. I don't know. It changes. I've always been someone that...
Right. It looks right under the back.
It looks right now. If I took it off, everyone would be like, what is going on? So I think it's me.
Looks right.
And I'm pretty chilled and relaxed, and I don't, grooming and all those sort of things. It gets really long, and then I'll trim it a little bit, and then there'll be moments where I trim it right back because it's really, really annoying me. There's other moments where it goes out because... if I'm home for 4 or 5 weeks, I just won't shave at all. So it's I look like a bum. So it's just what it is. And Jess is not over me about it all the time. I got you would have noticed in Perth, I went the shorter sides and left the back a little bit and had a little sort of mohawk thing going, a mullet thing going at the minute, which has been very well received in the boys. I normally got to give a haircut 2 weeks. I got the all approval on 2 hours. So I didn't wear a hat for all of Perth. I'm so happy with it because I've never changed my haircut for ever. It goes from short to real long, back to short to real long. So I changed it up, and Jess wasn't overly pleased with it, but I got the all clear when I got home. She goes, not the all clear. It actually doesn't look that bad, which I was like, okay, I'll take that as a compliment. That's the best I'm getting. So
if that's the baseline, that's good. Chum, I only got 2 more questions for you. And we always finish with the same way, but just prior to the last question, the IPL, congratulations the year you had. You guys at the top of the order for Sunrise was incredible. Unfortunately, didn't win the final. Good, obviously, for Starkey that he was able to. What's the IPL experience like? I've asked this to a few cricketers to try and explain to people listening here in Australia the size, the scale, the crowds, and the hero worship. What is the IPL to you? What type of experience is it?
A lot different now than what I did when I went to RCB the first time. I got caught up in the rock star life and just was with AB and Gale and all these Coley and watching that. It was like a whirlwind and come back from it a little bit like, what did I achieve out of that?
You were going out with Chris Gale.
Well, no, we're in the same hotel. There were certain times we went out together, but I didn't learn anything from it. I was I was so young, and I was like, I come back from it I don't know really what I got out of that. Do you know what I mean? We're now I'm a lot different. See, I'm 30, and there's times I can have a good time. There's times that I work hard at what I do, and I understand everything that goes on now, and not as taken back by it all. And The IPL come at a good time though, because the World Cup, the Indians weren't overly pleased with me off the back of the World Cup. I was like enemy number one for a while there, and then coming to Hyderabad and playing well, and taking us from, they had a couple of lean years to then playing in a final. Like that place is, I just loved my time there this last year. I just loved it. It was so much fun. The crowd was incredible. The people were incredible. It's a great place. Very well looked after. But yeah, getting around the hotel and everything, it's not as bad as Mumbai or Chennai teams or Bangalore, where the hotel is proper jammed in. But we had a pretty good following this year, and it was a great time. And but yeah, you can't compare it. I might have a mate coming over here or there this year to experience it now that I know I'm there, and hopefully I'm there for a while. And yeah, you need to experience it. Like the World Cup, you can't compare. You'd be the same when you talk about, and people go, what was the World Cup actually like? I haven't been to an MCG Grand Final, but like, and I'd love to go to that to try and compare it to the two, but like, I was like, it's nothing that I'd ever experienced or seen or done like. And IPL, every game is almost like that. So,
Trav, I don't say it
chaos.
lightly. I don't say it lightly. Like, I've been privileged enough to work at the last 4 or 5 grand finals in the commentary box, and the last 5 or 6 before that on the boundary.
Yeah.
And this sounds sacrilegious. That in no way, an AFL grand final cannot be compared in any way to the atmosphere of that World Cup final.
Yeah, or even the IPL. For Chennai, and Ollie Wines actually come over to watch the World Cup. Funnily enough, he come on a trip to India, and I think he watched Maxi get 100 against Netherlands at Delhi half stadium, and come to Dharamshala to watch New Zealand full stadium. And he was like, that was one of the cooler supporting experiences I've never seen him so. Like, that was ridiculous. And I was like, if you think that's ridiculous, like, you got to times it by 10, even just for an IPL game. Like, you're packed out every night. They're down the road. It's Ks and Ks and Ks a line up to get in. There's just people everywhere, and they are so passionate. It's like playing that every second night. And as a game day guy who loves that stuff, like, it's easy to get up for. I can lie in bed for 3 days in my hotel room and think like, all I want to do is go home and see my family. And it will get to 3 o'clock in the hour, and it's like, I got a game. And then you go, all right, let's get up for the game. Okay, well, how am I going to get up for it? Go out in the warm-up, walk around, and everyone's going mad. And it's like, okay, I can play now. Like, I'm ready. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's so easy to get up for games when the atmosphere is like that and the adrenaline starts running. You're like, okay, like, we're on now. Like, it's game time. So that's how I'm driven. That's how I'm wired, I guess. So I enjoy the IPL for that reason. I love game day. Like, it is chaos, but it is a cool experience.
You may not be able to do this, and tell me if nothing pops in your head. Like, just a quiet beverage with Chris Gale. What is that experience like?
You just watch him go about his work.
Yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't many times I was in the same booth as him. He was off in the big ones. I was only little. I was pretty much carrying everyone's bags at Bangalore at that stage. He's up there with the DJ most of the time.
Trav, final question I have for you. You've been great with your time. The test match is coming. I know you've got media commitments and all the stuff you do with KO as one of their ambassadors, so I know you've got a lot on your plate. We always finish this the same way, Trav, that I mentioned earlier on, we're privileged a lot of kids listen to this show. And I think you've got a lot of great lessons to explain to the youngsters out there, and you'll be able to pass these on to your own kids. For those that want to achieve success in their field, Trav, doesn't have to be as an athlete, can be anything in life that they're passionate about, which you are about cricket. What advice would you give? And this is a heavier question now because you're a father who understand the importance of these type of answers.
Oh yeah, like you said, like I think I probably couldn't just give one piece. Like for me, it's like, and as a father, it'll be numerous things over a long time of trying to mold it in the right way. But yeah, just like obviously being yourself and doing what you enjoy. I think you have a lot more fun when you do something that you like, whether that may be in sport, in business, or whatever that job is. If you enjoy what you're doing, it makes it a hell of a lot easier. And just be what comes natural. If you can be as natural as you, and I wasn't for a long time, but I feel like I am now, and it's very simple, but and there's hard times, but yeah, being as genuine as you can be, being polite as well, and trying to be as respectful. It's one thing I'm trying to tell my 2-year-old at the moment is always say please and thank you. Like I feel like that goes a long way as well. So yeah, again, in my life, I'm very, very privileged to what I do, but you try and say please and thank you every time, and try and be as respectful as you can, and yeah, take it for what it is. There's going to be hard moments, there's going to be great moments, but yeah, try and stay as leveled as you can be. There's a lot there. Like, that's not one piece of advice, but I feel like for me, it's not one quote, it's not one thing. It's just a ball of things that make you who you are, and accepting that as quickly as you can. It takes time, but yeah, it'll all work itself out.
I love it, Trav. You are what I like to call, and which is why I love going to the cricket when you're playing, because you're a bums on seats operator. You know when Trav Head walks out, something is going to happen, mate. Congratulations on all the success you've had on the field, and I'm sure there's much more coming your way. But from the way you've explained it, I hope everything goes well with your family, mate, and you get to spend as much time as you can. We'll see you in Adelaide, mate. But thanks to KO, who you represent, have you on the Howie Games, mate. And it's just great to see you happy and healthy with a fine young family and a beautiful wife, mate.
Thanks, mate. Thank you. It's going to be hard to keep everyone's bums on seat in Adelaide because they get out the back and drink Pims all day. So it's the only tough test that you get, that you have to drag them out from all the fun stuff out the back. So it's been a good week. Home test is always fun, but thanks for having me, mate.
Good on you, Eddie. Well done.
Cheers, mate.
Perfect.